One of the problems with this bracket clock is this missing section of moulding on the front, and there is some missing at the back as well. So what I'm going to do is take off what's left at the back and piece it in at the front, and then turn a new piece for the back. This bead here makes it harder to carve by hand, so it's going to have to be turned. I've mounted some old mahogany onto this piece of MDF with a newspaper joint, so you can split it off later. It shouldn't come off when I'm turning. It's a method I've used quite a few times. I've never had any accidents yet, but you never know. It's mounted onto a faceplate and ready for turning. Right, now I've turned this to the right diameter on the outside. It's still a little wider, and I've cut this little section out here, and I'm going to glue in a piece of the original moulding, so that when I turn it, if I just skim that, I know it's going to be correct, rather than using a template which is a bit hit and miss. So I've managed to get the profile right, so now all I need to do is remove it from the faceplate. I still have to make some straight section of this moulding, so to make it easier, that's the basic profile. If I make it in two sections, it'll be easier to do. So I've glued a piece of mahogany onto some plywood, and I'm going to use a couple of router bits to get that first shape. This is the other bit of the moulding, which I'm going to just rebate with a shoulder plane. This part here needs still needs rounding over, which I'll just do by hand. So I've rounded that bead over, and if I glue those together, that'll match. So I'm just thinning it down so it's a match for the front piece, well, the back piece. That's right. Now I've mitered and glued this section on. I just cut it roughly on a saw block and a dovetail saw, and then I played it by hand just to get the angle right. And I've glued this one on now, so the next step is to glue on this return piece. So again, I've just cut it roughly, and I'll just offer that up, and there's just a little bit of play in that, as in it's not quite meeting right at the tip. So what I'm going to do is just skim a bit more off. Making sure it's still square and offering it up. It just needs a bit more off. And that's it. And also make sure it's square, parallel with the other one. And the next bit is to cut this side and this piece so they meet. I've replaced the moulding round the back and round the side, and the front I've replaced, well, I put this piece back on. I've trimmed the end so it's square, and this is a piece off the back, but for some reason it's slightly longer that way, but if I actually skim the top of it I'll be able to get it to fit. That small concave section actually gets wider as it gets round to this end, so what I'm going to do is take more off this bit and bring it back to its full width down this end so that it marries up with the existing piece that I've made for that. Now I've trimmed a millimetre off this end to nothing down that end and got it to fit again, and everything lines up except this top edge, so when I glue it in I will actually trim that by hand afterwards, and the other pieces fit in, and that will be the rest of the moulding. So that's the last of the moulding finished off, all the way around. There's a little bit of oak underneath that veneer, so I've pieced that in, re-veneered that, veneer on the top. And now it's done. It doesn't look like a lot of work, but it is. There's more work than you think. And that's what it takes if you want to get it looking right.